everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening today. Liam Hartree here with another episode of Simply Inspired, and today I'm joined by a very, very special guest, Tim Wilkinson, ultra endurance athlete who has some incredible achievements to his name, including finishing the Ultraman Canada, finishing the Ultraman World Championships, completing two Anvils as well. We're going to be talking today about triathlons, ultra running, everything involved in endurance. But more than just that, we're going to be delving a little bit deeper into the mindset that it takes to succeed in pretty much some of the toughest sports on earth, I would say. So it's an absolute pleasure to be talking with Tim today, his morning, my evening, connecting around the world. So, Tim, thank you very much for coming on the show, and it's an absolute pleasure to be talking with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I enjoy doing these, and it's great to connect with different people around the world, as you said earlier. I look forward to this.
Absolutely. It's going to be good fun. We've got a lot to talk about now. I don't always go back to the beginning with my guests. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But in your case, I think we will, because I'd like to go back in time to find out a little bit about the initial inspiration in terms of what inspired you to push yourself to the limits and beyond. A lot of people, when we talk about these topics, have a process of trying a sport, then sort of falling in love with it and realizing how far they can go, but they don't always realize straight away. So, in terms of your origins, if you like, as an athlete, where did it all start for you?
Um, Growing up, I got an older brother, a younger sister. My dad put us in hockey. We just loved hockey. Um, and then in the off season of hockey, my dad would say, go for a run, go to the school field and run laps and get yourself in shape for hockey season so that you're one step ahead of the other players and to stand out. That was his goal, to separate myself from the other players during hockey season and hockey tryouts. So when I played hockey from 6 to 17 years old, when my hockey career ended, that I didn't make it to the next level, I enjoyed running. I did my first 10-kilometer race. It was a Terry Fox run when I was 10 years old. No, I wasn't 10, I was 9. I hadn't, because it was in September and my birthday's in October, so I was 9 years old. And yeah, so I went from there and I continued running. I really enjoyed running, did all kinds of running in school, in high school. I did track and field. And then I got into longer distances. Um, did my first half marathon. I really enjoyed it. And the natural progression would be a marathon. But I skipped the distance. I went straight into ultra marathon, 50 miles. I was 17. My dad had heard about it before I did. And he said, Tim, you like running? There's this run coming to Lake Couch in our hometown. And he says, why don't you do this run? Teenager instinct. Okay, let's go. And not thinking about training, not thinking about distance, just the fact that I really enjoyed running. My thought process was, okay, I've run a half marathon. I can make the jump to 50 miles. How hard can it be? Oh, boy, did I get that wrong. But the fact is, I finished. And that's what I was most proud of. I finished. My time was 10 hours, 36 minutes, 12 seconds. I found out after the race that I was the youngest in Canada to finish an ultramarathon, which wasn't the goal to set any record. It was just to cross the finish line. So I was quite pleased with that.
Wow, that is absolutely an incredible achievement. Something, as you say, to be very, very proud of, and something that you obviously look back on with a lot of fondness, and rightly so. So obviously you continued forward with the endurance-based sports and everything like that. In terms of ultra marathons, how many have you actually done all in all before we get into the triathlons, because we'll talk about that as well, and we'll talk about a bit of everything. But in terms of those sort of long distance races, how many have you done all in all, please, Tim?
Uh, Surprisingly, not that many. I've done more. Thinking about it, I would say I've done equal amounts of ultra marathons on my own for charity than I have in actual paid race events. I don't know the exact number, but I would put it in probably in the 50 neighborhood,
Yeah.
between 56-kilometer distance, 50-mile, 24-hour, 12-hour distances on tracks, trails, so and roads, of course. But yeah, all varying distances, varying courses, and terrain.
Absolutely. Well, 50, I mean, that's still quite a lot, especially when you consider that these are some of the toughest races in the world and everything, this type of thing with those distances. So definitely something to be very proud of. And obviously, I'd love to talk with you about so many of them, but we'd be here until next week, I think, and it would be too much. So what I usually do in these situations is to condense it down, is to talk about people's favorites, So in your own words, obviously you mentioned that first one where you set the record, being the youngest and everything. That's obviously a personal highlight. When you look back at the others, are there certain ones that stand out as being your personal favorites out of those 50 plus, or however many it is?
I My personal favorite is that one, and it was in my hometown of Lake Cowichan. We run around Cowichan Lake, as well as an extra loop to make it that distance. Um, I look back on it with fondness, with plenty of emotional memories. Um, yeah, as I said, I was 17 when I did it, and then I had run that race is no longer uh, a race now, because the racer that it was named after, Al Howie, he's passed away, but the race was named in his honor, and I'd run it probably 6, 8 times thereabouts. Um, I really enjoyed it. It was about 30% pavement, 70% logging truck road, uh, dirt road, secluded out in the sticks. Um, there were very little traffic, so that was good. Um, there were so many things that happened during that race over the years that I look back and I thought, wow, it's a learning experience. You asked for this, keep going. There were rough races, yes, but I look back, of course, on the ones that I achieved what I thought in my head was a success. Um, Others will perceive different, meaning my bar is set higher for me than anybody else has had a bar set for me. My I look back and I think I'm so proud of that race. As I said, when I was 17, setting that Canadian record, I'm proud of that. I hang my hat on that. But I also look back on uh, when I was 20, doing the same race and finding out again another record. Again, I don't do these races to chase records or anything of that sort. My goal is to see two lines, start line, finish line, and cross both. When I was 20, I found out that I set a Canadian record again for fastest 20 and under. And I was quite proud of that. Afterwards, I go, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And then I moved on. My time was 7 hours 58 minutes. So again, it's look back on fondness. When I was 17, Al Howie, he set a lot of records, running records. Um, when I was doing that, my very first race, I was about 20 kilometers from the finish. I was in rough shape. I knew I was going to finish. A DNF wasn't going to happen. It wasn't even a thought in my head. I knew I was going to struggle. I knew I was going to keep moving forward. When I was going the direction of the finish, as I said, about 20 kilometers from the finish, I see this vehicle come driving towards me, and then it pulled over on the shoulder, and the passenger door opened, and I go, holy crap, that's Al Howie. And he got out. He had finished the race. He had won the race, and he come out and hey, Timmy, how you doing? I go, well, I'm kind of in rough shape right now. He goes, okay, good. He got a pair of socks. He said, sit down, change your socks. Your feet will feel fresh, and come on, let's go. So he was running alongside me. He was I could recite probably 80% of the conversation in spite of being in rough shape, but that's what it meant to me to have him there with me. We were talking about anything and everything besides running. And I knew what he was doing. He was distracting me, taking me away from my body, so to speak, and just being me, being him, talking about everything beyond running. Um, and we got it. The kilometers went by way quicker. I didn't think about any pain or aches and how much I was struggling, and I'm thankful for that. And then about a kilometer left, he patted me on the back. I might get a little emotional. Um, he patted me on the back, and he said, "You did it. Congratulations. Finish it off. You earned it." And I did. I was quite pleased with that.
Wow. What an exceptional story, Tim. I'm not lost for words very often, especially doing things like this all of the time. But what a remarkable story. I mean, to be, as you say, patted on the back and encouraged and to spend time with somebody of that stature, it is absolutely remarkable, once in a lifetime. So thank you for sharing that, especially given the fact that as I can see, it does bring back those emotions. But nonetheless, I'm very grateful for you sharing that because it's such an achievement, something to be so proud of, and obviously something that just stayed with you because as you were explaining that, you were describing it like it happened yesterday, so it's obviously stayed with you very much.
Yes.
Um, wow, thank you.
Hmm.
So,
I enjoy telling those kind of stories. It makes the run real. It makes the distance real, and it makes myself a real person in the sense that I've got a real job, but this is what I do on the side. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, it is an incredible achievement, as you say. As I said, sorry, as you were describing that, it was such a vivid description. I felt like I was there as well, and that doesn't happen very often. In the sense that you brought that to life, So, remarkable. So obviously you moving forward a little bit in time, you continued competing in these long distances, and we've touched on your favorites there. A small thing I'd like to touch on with this. Obviously you've run trails, you've run roads, you've done all different types of terrain. Do you have a preference in terms of road running, in terms of more the sort of trail running being in nature, or are they all special to you in different ways, regardless of the terrain, or do you have a favorite type of terrain with that?
I enjoy all terrain. I like trails and out in nature for what it is, out in nature. It's you in nature, birds singing, see wild animals, deer, elk, the occasional bear. Um, I also enjoy the road. When I run on the road, I imagine myself running a long straight road. You don't see the end of the road, there's nothing around, and you're just knowing that you got to go that direction. At times it seems like you're not getting anywhere, but you do see the, as far as you can see, get bigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
um, Trails I enjoy as well, except when I hit roots and you take a tumble, but that's part of the territory. So I enjoy them all. It's the fact is I'm out running, and that's what it's enjoyable.
Absolutely. I mean, you must see some incredible sights and experience some incredible things in general, but especially with the nature side of it, it must be fantastic to immerse yourself in that so far from built up areas and what have you. With the length of these races, it's must be absolutely beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
when it comes to obviously transitioning a little bit from just running into adding in some of these other things with cycling and some other things like that, at what point did that start for you in terms of the inspiration to mix it up slightly where you'd obviously accomplished so much with running, but you must have felt the desire to maybe push yourself a little bit further or try something else. What was the initial inspiration for that side of things, please?
Um, I was in my late 20s. Yes, I'd done lots of running, and it was never boring for me, but I had watched a triathlon. Uh, I'd seen the Hawaii Ironman World Championships, and I thought it would be incredible to do a race, specifically that Hawaii Ironman. Um, Somebody put it in my head, you can't run our whole lifetime, your knees will blow out, you'll be hobbling like an old man when you're 50. But I never believed that. I wanted to try triathlons. I did one as a relay with two of my friends in high school. um, and that was my first introduction to triathlon. But I remember when I was 9 years old, my dad and I were watching TV, and my dad had put on the Hawaii Ironman on TV. This was in October of 81. Um, Earlier that year, in May of 81, my mom had passed away from, I hate saying this word, it starts with a C. Um, Now, keep in mind, I'm 9 years old, and I said to my dad, how cool would it be to do a triathlon? How cool would it be to race in Hawaii? I'm 9 years old. I don't know where Hawaii is. I don't know the distances of an Ironman, but I just thought it would be so cool to do one. And my dad, he just said to me, he just looked at me and said 3 words: someday, Tim, someday. And we just continued watching the race. There was no additional words to that conversation, but it was a defining moment, I think, to me, because that just put a seed in my brain of the future. Looking back on it, that's exactly what it was. Um, that was in October of 81. My dad was sick in the hospital with another kind of that C word. Um, he is in the hospital, and I said to my dad, Dad, you gotta. This was in 2004, November 2004. I said to my dad, come on, Dad, you gotta fight. You got to keep going. You got to watch me race in Hawaii. Okay. I didn't have any races planned. I didn't have any strategy to get me to Hawaii, but that was me telling him to fight. And he said to me those same words that he had said in 1981. Someday, Tim, someday. And he had passed away in November of 2004. In 2019, I did Ultraman Canada. After that race, I qualified for the World Championships in Hawaii. I made a vow a long time ago not to set foot in Hawaii until Hawaii called me. I made the decision that yes, I want to go to Hawaii. I qualified for the World Championships in Ultraman, and that's Hawaii was calling me.
Absolutely, and fulfilling the promise as well to your father. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Wow, you know, Tim, no matter how many interviews I do, I'm always so grateful for people sharing such personal things as this. And in your case, obviously the memories are alive for you, and it's such a vivid thing. But I'm so grateful for you sharing that, because I know aspects of it with your parents. It can't be easy to talk about by any means. I mean, anyone can see that, but the fact that you are sharing it in honoring their memory and um everything like that, it's a beautiful thing. So I'm very grateful for that, as long as you're okay with.
I'm okay. I can tell this story daily if anybody will listen, but yet the same emotions still come out. It doesn't bother me. I'm okay showing my emotions. I don't hide anything. I'm not a fake person. This is who I am. Um, but I also got to expand on this story about Hawaii. Um, when my wife and I went to Hawaii for the race, and I'm a firm believer that you find coins, it's from a loved one in heaven. Soon as my wife and I got off the plane, picked up our luggage, we got on our shuttle. I sat down in a seat. My wife sat across from me, and I just looked down to the floor, and to my left there was a coin. And I said to my wife, I said, look what's down here. Guess who's with us? And during the race, I would see coins. I didn't pick any up during the bike, but because I was going too fast. But during the run, I picked up every one of them. I probably picked up a couple dozen coins, and I always gave it a kiss and acknowledged my parents that they were with me. During the bike portion of this race, it was really strange to me because there were half a dozen instances where I would be riding and I'd look around and it would be familiar to me, like I'd been there before, like I'd seen it before, but I'd never set foot on Hawaii. And I thought, wow, this is very strange. I'm looking around. I knew this was here. I saw this and I couldn't believe it. So I just soaked it in, and okay, my parents are with me. And then after the race, uh, my wife and I, we had a few days after the race, and we were driving around looking for different places to go walk on a beach, walk on a trail, explore. We went down this one road to a resort, and we parked, and we wanted to go walk on a sandy beach, and it was just all the black lava rock. So, but there was a trail we could walk along the water and see the water. And I was telling my wife, thank you. I appreciate you being here. I'm so grateful that we're able to come. And as I'm talking to her, she said, she stopped and she looked at me and she says, look to your right. What do you see? And it was black lava rock, but people collect white rocks and spell out I love so and so, draw a heart or their name, that kind of thing. But I looked to my right and I could not believe it. It was a big heart, probably 4 or 5 feet, with the name Al. That's my dad's name.
Wow, that is incredible.
I couldn't believe it. There's a million names in the world, and I saw my dad's name.
Yeah,
So I got emotional. Um, I just I love you, Dad. He was with me.
absolutely. Absolutely it was, Tim. I mean, I believe that 100%. And it's a funny thing you should say about the coin thing because I've had exactly the same experience with that. I have exactly the same thing. And I've had, I won't go off on a tangent with it now, but suffice to say, I've had some very important times in my life where I've seen those and these type of signs, from things. Absolutely, I'm with you on that 110%. You don't hear a lot of people mention it, but I definitely know some other people this has happened to. But it happens to me at times. It's not just what happens, but when it happens as well. And the feeling you get, the deja vu feeling, I've had that as well. It's amazing. It's from up above, isn't it?
Absolutely.
On the subject of that, with Hawaii, when you finish the race itself, I mean, especially in those maybe if we hone in on those sort of final moments where you're coming up on the finish line and you finish that, you'd obviously then fulfilled that promise or that pact or whatever you'd like to call it with your father. Sunday was that day. Had become that day. So, what actually went through your mind in that moment? I know you mentioned what happened afterwards. And I'm pleased to hear that you stayed and looked around Hawaii as well because that was very well deserved, by the way. But in terms of finishing the race, I mean, can you put into words what goes through your mind in a moment like that, especially with how many years it had been that this had been sort of on the horizon, if you like, if you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Um, the race itself is 3 day stage race, and the third day is a run.
Mm,
Uh, I guess let me explain the distances for those who don't know. It's called Ultraman World Championships. It's a 3 day stage race. Day one, you swim 10 kilometers point to point, and then you bike 145 kilometers, and that's day one. Day two, you bike 275 kilometers, you circumnavigate the big island of Kona. Day three, you run 84.4 kilometers, which is 2 marathons. Each day you have 12 hours to complete the day, otherwise, your race is over. Um, During the run, uh, I and as most people do, they have their highs, their lows. The difference being is how do you manage the lows, the dark places? How do you get out of it? And I knew my parents were with me during the dark time. I talked to them. I I didn't talk to them in my mind. I spoke out loud like they're right alongside me, cheering me on. And with each step, it got me closer towards the finish line. And as I approached, I knew that it was going to be the end of my journey of that race. To that point, it had been almost, well, 30 plus years to get to that point. And it's almost like a reel in my head was playing and playing, and different things happen in my life, and it led me to that moment. I looked around, took in all the scenery, and I wasn't feeling any more pain. I was I knew what the finish area looked like. I knew where the turn off, my last right hand turn off the Queen K was. Um, and then I started getting really emotional, not from the pain that I was in, but just the gratitude, relief that I was there, that I was able to accomplish something that I set out to do once upon a time.
Yeah.
And I was so happy my wife was there, and I was able to tell her a lot of things that went through my mind, how I was feeling, different stories with my parents. And when I saw the finish line, it didn't mean it was the end of my running career, my racing career. To me, that was one of the beginnings. And I was going to continue, but I was grateful to cross the finish line.
Absolutely. Well, it's an incredible achievement in any way, shape, or form that you look at this. The distance, the endurance, the Hawaii aspect, because as I understand it, the Ironman actually started in Hawaii as well in its inception, and obviously now it's all over the world. But that was the beginning. So on that level as well, but the fact that your parents were with you, the fact that your wife was with you, um, it's beautiful. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm not lost for words very often. I do these interviews every week. I always can think of questions, but there's been a few times as you're saying this, I'm processing not just what you're saying, but the feeling that comes with it, and it's absolutely profound. So that's not a question. I'm just saying from me to you, it's absolutely profound. Um, wow. So that's that's the that's Hawaii. That's the Ironman. It is an incredible achievement. And another aspect of this, Tim, with the people around you that sort of follows on from that, I think. I know that you don't do any of these to set records and this type of thing. You're doing it for what sounds very much like an inner journey to me, almost a spiritual journey in a way in itself. But obviously, you are getting well known and getting the recognition from doing these things and appearing in the news and doing podcasts and everything of that nature. How do you feel about being recognized in that way? Because you're a very, very humble person that comes over, and that's good, obviously. But at the same time, you have a lot to be proud of. So, how do you feel about people reaching out in this type of way, like we're talking about now?
Um, I I'm flattered. Um, I enjoy. Once upon a time, in my early 20s, maybe it's just immaturity at that time, but when somebody said I inspired them, okay, great, whatever. I didn't know how to respond, but and I didn't know how to respond, and it didn't mean anything to me. It didn't have any impact on me. Um, but now it's completely different, completely different. I'm humbled when people say I inspire them. Uh, because of you, I'm trying this. Because of you, I was able to do this. I was having a hard workout, and I thought, what would Tim do? How would Tim handle it? And I'm so happy to hear that. When and you mentioned how do how do I respond when people recognize me? Um, First, it's just, oh, hello, like I'm completely shocked. I'm just, I'm just a regular person, so to speak. I'm a baker at a grocery chain, um, so it's just something I do. Um, I remember this is with I got to tell this story. Um, After my race in Hawaii, we come home. Uh, we still had a few days left, and my wife and I took our two girls. They're 14 and 16 now. We went to Victoria, and we went out to the breakwater. It's I guess about 3 kilometer walk there and back out on the ocean. Um, and I was wearing my Ultraman gear, my hat and the jacket that we got from the race, and I was trying to take a picture of the four of us. And there was a lady there. She says, I can help you. I can take a picture for you. And so I looked at her. She didn't look sketchy or she's going to run off with my phone or anything. So I said, sure, okay, thank you. And she looked at my hat, my jacket, and it said Ultraman Triathlon. And she goes, you should talk to my husband. He's done Ironman Canada. I said, oh, okay. So she called him over after she took a couple of pictures for us, and she said, she called him over and said, David, look. And and he looked at me, he goes, Tim, how you doing? And I'm thinking, okay, good. How you doing, man? And nothing. I didn't know who he was. He goes, oh, I follow you on all your social media. Oh, it's so nice to meet you. And so we got to talk, and we were walking for half an hour, and he was talking to me about racing and such things. And he said that he is so excited to meet me. And I was taken aback that, wow, I didn't realize I had such an effect on anybody. And after they left, we parted ways. And my youngest daughter, she's kids being kids. Dad, who is that? And I go, I don't know. Apparently I'm friends with him on social media. And he goes, you're not that famous, Dad. I said, I know, but I was just my daughter's response to me, Dad, you're not that famous. So it's humbling, and I'm shocked when people do spot me. And
Yeah, well, but whether you look at it as being famous or not, Tim, I mean, I think a good measure of that is the fact that you're very well respected, and rightly so. And a better measure of it is what you said there, the inspiration, the positive impact you have on people. And again, it's the reason why I do these really, is to inspire people and show people not to give up, show people that they can achieve their dreams and goals, show people they can become the best version of themselves, really. Because at the end of the day, that's something that really resonates with me from your story. Is it's not just you achieve this or that or the other to beat this person, but you achieve this, that, and the other to become the best version of yourself. And among other things, obviously there are other things, and it's a really beautiful life lesson, I think. And on the topic of life lessons, I would like to take a moment to sort of pick your brains on this from the point of view of people out there who are striving for a particular dream or a particular goal in their lives. I'd like to get a little bit of advice from you on things they can do to succeed at that in the true meaning of it. And by that, I'm not talking about the fame or the money or these things, but as what you've been saying, the people who love you, who are with you on a journey, being proud of yourself, a lot of these inner goals. Could you share with us one or two pieces of advice for somebody, especially if they're starting out as well, especially if this feeds back into, say, where we started this when you were 17, when you were 20, when Al took the time to encourage you. I think in a way, you can take this opportunity to do a similar thing to people listening to this, even if they're people you may never meet in person, if that makes sense. So excuse my rambling description,
no,
but In short, a few little pieces of advice to encourage people chasing a big dream or a big goal, please, Tim. That would be lovely.
Uh, my biggest piece of advice is don't be afraid to fail. That was my biggest stumbling block once upon a time is what if? What if this happens? What if that happens? But now it's still what if. It's what if I soar? There's nothing wrong with trying. Do it. Go out and try it. If it's a if it's a 5 kilometer race, if it's a bike race, a walkathon, whatever it is, you don't feel like you can do it. What's the harm in trying? There is absolutely no harm in trying. Um, a DNF doesn't mean you failed. A DNF means to me is that you tried, but you didn't succeed. You fail when you don't try at all. Um, Lots of people, they don't want to do something because they are worried how they look. Put all that aside. Think about what it will do for you. It'll make you stronger, mentally stronger. It's contagious. You finish something. Okay, what else can I do? I want to try that next. It just fuels a fire inside of you. That's how I feel. There's nothing wrong that you don't succeed. Just try, try. Are you a paid professional? No. Does anybody really care? No. Just go out and try.
Absolutely. I love that, Tim, because well, the concept of following your heart, it sounds sort of corny in a way, but one of the things I love about your journey is you have been, from the sound of things, following your heart, and you have been, as I said earlier, competing with yourself. And it's something that really rings true with what you said there as well, is the authenticness of that dream or that goal, the authenticness, if it's something that you want to do, as I've already said, inwardly, something for growth, something for pushing past your own limits. It's a very powerful message for people. And what's good about that, Tim, is that people can apply that in any life area as well. It doesn't have to just be in sports. It can be in business. It can be in education. It can be in all sorts of different things. It's universal, as they say.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Um, I used to, when I played hockey, one of my hockey coaches, he also taught power skating. Um, and he wanted me to come out and help him show these kids that how well you skate. So I go out there with them. These are just little guys, 6, 7 years old. And as my coach would tell me the drill they're about to do, and he had demonstrate. And so when they were doing skating drills, I watched this one little guy just hammer the boards. He wiped out just before the boards, and I went over to him. You okay? No, he's crying. He's upset. He doesn't want to skate anymore. So I just leaned down to him, talked with him. You'll be fine. Just get up and try. Do it again. I said, I bet you if you skate to those boards over there and back as fast as you can, you'll leave the pain behind. So he went over there, he raced over there, raced back. And I said, well, did you get it done? You leave that pain behind? He goes, yeah, sure did. So I always like telling that story because if you believe in something, you try something, you can trick your mind to accomplish a goal. And that's what he did.
Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. Passing on some of your knowledge to to somebody who's starting out and growing in the journey. It's a wonderful thing. On the topic of that as well, Tim, I think that bears mentioning with the concept of pushing through the pain barrier. And I sometimes bring this up with people, sometimes I don't, but I did notice on, I think it's on your Facebook, isn't it? It's Night of Suffering Land, or something of that nature. So it's obviously something that you're aware of, and something that you've worked to, given everything you've achieved. That goes without saying, but it's obviously something you have an insight into as well. And again, I bring this up because I think it's applicable to various different life areas as well, because pain always comes along in some form, and there's a lot of these sayings of, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and things of that nature. I'd like to just get your tips on how you do push through pain, which will be something you're well used to doing, I'd imagine, given everything you've accomplished.
Um, there's different levels of pain. When you first start out, you feel pain. The natural tendency is to back off, so you don't feel it anymore. And then you do it again, you feel the pain, and you go a little bit further, whether it be distance or time. Then you back off. It's a learned process of dealing with pain. How do you block it out? How do you move on, continue on in spite of this pain? Pain is powerful, but your mind is more powerful. If you train your mind to block out pain, it's your goal, your achievements are endless. You can accomplish anything. And I strongly believe that once you figure that out, that you can tolerate pain, you can go further than you ever thought possible. And that's what's necessary with endurance sports. It's going to happen at some point. You will feel pain. How are you going to deal with it? Are you going to back off? Are you going to throw in the towel? Or are you going to use the towel to wipe your brow and keep going?
I like that. That's a very good analogy as well. But yeah, it's just something that I had in mind to ask you about, due to, as you say, the levels, and due to the mind over matter that you'd have to apply. Because the powerful thing about this, obviously, the physical training and everything is essential, but at the same time, with endurance sports, there's an element of it almost stripping people to what they really made of. There's almost like there's no room for any pretense, or to be able to hide anything. It's how much you can really take, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, pushing through it further and further. And it's a wonderful insight into that. And as I said already, it applies to different life areas as well. As we progress into the latter sort of phase of this and everything, um, when it comes to the present day and everything. You mentioned at one point with Hawaii and everything, that was the end of the line, but you also mentioned about continuing. So you'll have to bring me up to speed on this because I've been reading about your past achievements. But in the present day, are you still running? Are you still doing that, or have you sort of stopped in recent years?
No, I'm still continue on. That Hawaii race was in 2019. I still do it. Couple of years, 2021. Yeah, 2021. I was training to do a double anvil, which is the equivalent of two iron distance triathlons. It's continuous. You do all the swim, then you do all the bike, and then you do all the run. So I signed up for a race in Oregon. It's called the Oregon Double Anvil. Um, Unfortunately, with the world pandemic, it put an end to it because our borders were closed, so we couldn't cross the border. So I did one on my own, raised money for a charity. When I say I did it on my own, yes, I did it all myself, but I had crew helping me. So I did that in 2021, and then I signed up for it again in the same race in 2022. So I was able to go down to Oregon. This was my first actual double Anvil race. It was my, it didn't go as well as intended. I got a DNF. I went about 276 kilometers into the bike and I ended up DNFing and I got hypothermia. I didn't have proper gear, but I learned from it. I learned a lot from that race. I was able to go back to it just this past June, and I called it my redemption race. I wasn't leaving there without a finish, and that was my goal, and I accomplished that, and I was very pleased with that. So I did the double Anvil. It was a strange feeling, like the first time around doing the races, where you do the swim, about 3 hours of swimming thereabouts, and then you bike all day, all night, and then into the next day, and then you start running. So my give you an idea of how long it takes to do, you have a 39-hour time limit. So imagine racing for 39 hours, and that's what I did. So so that was that race. My next goal, I'm going to continue doing these style of races. I really enjoy them. I want to do a triple Anvil next. That's 3 times the distance of an iron distance race. Triple Anvil is what my next goal is, and then a quint, which is 5 times the iron distance. And then the long-term goal is to do a deca, which is 10 iron distance. So I've got short-term goals, long-term goals, and I'm doing my best to take the necessary steps to put myself in a position to race those.
Absolutely. That is it's an exceptional achievement. That goes without saying. But no matter how many times I hear it, Tim, with the whole that amount of hours, obviously 24 hours, but then I've heard all different numbers when interviewing people on this show, 32 hours, 39. I mean, it's exceptional. It's practically superhuman from where I'm sitting. But I love the fact that you still have the fire inside you to keep pushing forward and keep seeing how far you go. Because obviously, again, as an important life lesson, every time you reach what you thought was not so much a limit, but sort of, I don't know what word to use, but sort of a barrier or an end point, you realize there's something beyond that and something beyond that. And it's a journey of continual self-improvement. So it's absolutely powerful with that. We'll wrap this up shortly for people's attention spans. I keep them about an hour 15, something like that, because people can comfortably listen to that in a day. In fact, I'm impressed we've condensed down how much you've achieved into that time because I wasn't sure how we would manage. But I'd like to close out by talking with you about the people who've helped you along the way. Because you've mentioned a few people, obviously your parents and how they helped you, they were with you in spirit. You've mentioned obviously Al encouraging you at the beginning and that being a significant moment. You mentioned the crew at one point as well, and it's just to get a feel for the people who are helping you behind the scenes. I think you said your wife helped you set this up today, so that needs a mention. But just it doesn't really matter what form it comes in because this support does come in different ways. It could be just an encouraging word on social media, as you mentioned, people follow you, all the way to somebody who's with you every step of the way. So it does come in different forms, but just the people that you'd like to mention who've contributed to your journey thus far, basically.
My wife, first and foremost. Everybody has a story. I started doing these races and I thought, what do I have to do to accomplish doing these? But then everybody's got household chores, cutting the grass, keeping the lawn, keep cutting the grass, keeping the house clean, maintaining a house. If you got kids, picking up kids from school, taking them to school, taking them to work, taking them to their friends, that kind of thing. All that stuff still goes on, but then you also still got the training for it. And she picked up a lot of that slack, and I'm very grateful for that. As you, doing these races, you don't accomplish anything on your own. You do need a crew. You do need help. You do need a tight knit circle of people. Sponsors are a great help. I'm grateful and thankful I have some sponsors, and I'm still actively seeking more. People that doing these races, you need crew in the water with you, in the lake, in a kayak, driving a vehicle alongside you, passing you nutrition. People at the finish line, people that when you're down and out in between training days, you need somebody just to vent. You need people to pick up your slack in your day-to-day life, whether it be helping pick up kids, drop somebody off, go somewhere, that kind of thing. So these races aren't accomplished without help. At Ultraman Canada, I minimum 2 crew. I had John Barrow I grew up with. And Derek Kircher I grew up with. I went to school with them, played baseball with them, played hockey with them. So I had them on my crew. In Hawaii, I had my wife there with a couple other people. There was an incident with them, so I don't want to mention any more about that. And then at the double Anvil races that I did, my wife was there. We would have liked to take our kids there, but they're teenagers. They don't want to be around that kind of stuff. They just want to know how you did. So it's just my wife and I. But at the double Anvil race put on by Mammoth Endurance, they were incredible. The race owner was there, the race director, as well as all their volunteers. They roll up their sleeves. They get right in there. Their goal is to get you to the finish. What do you need? Can I get you anything? Are you feeling okay? What can I pass you? What can I run ahead? Like during the run, they'd be running alongside you. What can I run ahead and get you, have ready for you when you arrive? That kind of thing. And that's a lot of help. Like that, it doesn't go unnoticed, but they don't speak of it, and it's very grateful. You have to show your gratitude to that, because those things mean the world to you at that moment.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to give them a mention, Tim, because as I always say, there's a lot of people doing great work that are effectively behind the scenes, and people hear about your achievements and people hear about that, but then no one's an island, as they say. So these are the people contributing to that. It's very, very important to mention. As I said, we will wrap this up now in just a moment. Before we do, you mentioned about actively seeking sponsors there as well. Very briefly, if people do want to get in touch about anything like that that would contribute to your journey, we may as well give it a mention. We've come this far, so I thought I'd just drop that in there. How do they reach out to you? What's the best way to contact you personally?
You can reach me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and I enjoy hearing from them. My name's Tim Wilkinson. Instagram is at Sir Suffer King, KOS. And I I love showing gratitude for people that help me out. I'm very humbled by it, and any and all help is necessary. I read the average income of a triathlete was 267,000. That ain't my income. Far from it. I bring that curve way down. So as I said, I've got no problem asking for help, and I'm grateful for the help I do get. And it's been shown and demonstrated to me at the first double Anvil. I had help there. The person wanted to be left anonymous because I wanted to reach out, and I wasn't able to because they wanted to be remained anonymous. And I honestly don't know their name, but so I was helped with that race. Um, People have reached out to me in terms of uh, services, massage, running gear, um, discounts at bike shops, that kind of thing. And as I said, I'm very grateful. My nutrition is alone would be I wouldn't be able to afford it if I had to pay for it. So, but I am grateful.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to give the people I mentioned a different way, and hopefully some more people will reach out and people will find out about your journey from this, because obviously people who know you will listen to this, but some people will be hearing your story for the first time, or maybe they've heard of you, but they'll be hearing your story in depth for the first time. So, whichever form it takes, then it's very, very valuable to give that a mention. So, Tim, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like to thank you for more than just for your time, though. I'd like to thank you for being such an open book about these very personal points, because with this, we've got a really nice mix today of some fun stories from your achievements, but we've also gone a bit deeper and given people some advice and given people some motivation and some things they can pick up on. But you have shared some things that are very personally from your heart, from your mind, the stories about your parents and everything. And I'm very grateful for that. And I must say, it's really been an honor to listen to you in that way. I've personally gained inspiration from this. I know that many people who listen to this will do the same. But I just want to thank you, as I said, not only for taking the time, but for sharing things so deeply with our listeners. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate hearing that. Again, I enjoy hearing people tell me they're inspired by me. Um, I want to help people. I want to inspire people. I want to help kids find, it doesn't have to be a triathlon. It doesn't have to be running. Just find something that you enjoy doing. Um, and that's what my goal is. I've helped people. I've done work with charities, raising money for them. I'm help. My latest was this helping this lady. Her goal. She's done some half Ironmans, and her goal is next week to do a full Ironman. And hopefully, because we got some wildfires here, there's the race is in jeopardy of happening, but that's small potatoes because people have lost their homes. And but that's what I like to do. I want to help people. I'd love to get into the coaching part to help my help myself get along in this journey. So far, I don't have certificates. I don't have credentials that say Tim Wilkinson, you're a coach or you're this or that. All I can do is speak and show my real world experience.
Absolutely. Well, you have a lot to share with people, as I've said, not just about sports, but about life as well. And I think those two are interchangeable anyway. So I definitely think that you'd make a wonderful coach. And we've obviously met for the first time today, and I felt totally comfortable talking with you. And you'd be in the sense that I feel almost like we've met before. It's just flown, the time's just flown by and everything. So I really think that when you're coaching people, they'd feel very comfortable learning with you and being in that sort of position, which has a degree of vulnerability. When you're teaching somebody, I really feel you'd be very good at that with your patients and everything as well.
Thank you.
So I hope you do, because there's a lot of knowledge there to pass on. Once again, Tim, thank you so much for your time. Please do keep me updated as well on these upcoming um, triples and quadruples and all the things that you mentioned at the Anvils. Please do keep me updated on that, because that's a very exciting journey in and of itself. And we'll go from there. I look forward to watching your progress with that. In terms of this interview, I will release it as soon as I can. I'm very excited to release it. I will send it to you when it's ready as well. So if you have any uses, you can obviously share that as well. And we'll just keep in touch even after that point. It'll be a pleasure to stay in touch with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate your kind words. I thank you for taking the time. Um, I listened and watched your podcast with Sandy McCallum. I'm friends with her, and we've chatted more than a few times. And I wanted, hearing and seeing you speak, I wanted to reach out, and I'm glad I did. So thank you for taking the opportunity and a chance on me.
Well, thank you for reaching out, and thank you for the kind words as well, because it really is a compliment to me that somebody who's achieved as much as you have would reach out to me in this way. And no matter how much things like that happen, I'm always grateful as well. Gratitude is a big part of the journey, so it's been an absolute honor. Thank you again. I'm going to run and just get a bite to eat, because it's our evening over here, so I can feel my tummy grumbling. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, Tim. You've got more of it to go than I have. And as I said, I'll be in touch as soon as I can with the finished product, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.